Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the MCAV event. I hope you really enjoy the dinner tonight and make lots of useful connections. Here is our first speaker, David.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Our friendly robot here tried to get a voice above you. Hopefully I'm now achieving it. It's excellent. Welcome to the Innovation Birmingham campus and to an event that just about summarizes what the Innovation campus is about bringing people together to promote innovation across all sectors in the digital space. To my mind, too often in the UK, we work off geographies that are too small, that we sit today 100 miles from Cambridge, and through the MCAV project, actually for the first time, we're talking about a way in which the innovation ecologies in Birmingham can start to interact with the innovation ecologies in Cambridge. Innovation needs a critical mass. And if we start taking those ecologies and dividing them up and up and up, the critical mass is all that more difficult to secure. If we're working in a global environment and you see that innovation ocean where everything is there working together, if we start taking that ocean and dividing it into lakes and then into ponds, the chances of all the bits being in the right place are less likely. We live in a digital world that is connected. We're talking about connected vehicles here, but digital connects us all in ways in which we can actually benefit. So we launched a program, a thought process in 2010 called Science Parks Without Walls. The objective was to use this sort of technology that sits here to connect to other places, to bring people together, so that actually what you create is communities driven by interest rather than defined by the geography in which they're based. We talk about this global connectivity, but to my mind, we're not using it. So, being first up, I can take an advantage here, so I'm going to issue a challenge to everyone in this room. And the challenge is for us to use that 21st century technology to create a digital highway between Cambridge and Birmingham. And perhaps we'll stop off in places like Myra, Silverstone, Coventry, Milton Keynes, and connect up all of that activity to create a global force that can drive innovation into the autonomous vehicle space. Not a corridor, a superhighway. If we are going to compete on a global scale, that's the way we have to think. Coalesce those ponds, create at least lakes, and then I think we can do stuff that's really quite exciting. Anyway, that's all from me. Enjoy your evening, network. I look forward to hearing the speeches this evening. Hope you find it stimulating, enjoying, and hopefully now the first course will be on its way. Thanks very much.
One. Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah. Yeah, it's coming through now, yeah? advancing slides, or are you just...
No, I haven't got any slides, no.
Are you advancing the slide? Are you coming on and off to
No.
introduce?
Oh, I don't think so, no.
That's fine.
So this is... ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to say a few words of formal welcome this evening at the Midlands Connected Autonomous Vehicle Cluster Dinner, the first such dinner in Birmingham and indeed the country. So you are all extremely welcome this evening, and I think it's a very exciting moment for our city, for our region, and we are absolutely delighted to be able to welcome here this evening two mayors, Mayor Andy Street of the West Midlands and Mayor James Palmer from Cambridge and Peterborough. And I'm not sure whether we can call two mayors a cluster, but certainly heading that way, I think. But I do think we're on the cusp of great transformations and the integration that the connected autonomous vehicle technologies are going to bring, and certainly bringing about the connectivity and the integration of particularly transport, construction and energy sectors, and just what that will mean in terms of inclusivity, quality of life, and I think some really fundamental transformations in terms of the shared economy, business model transformation, and putting the user at the heart of our design, the way we design our economy and our place. And I think it's really impressive that the government has recognized the opportunity that these transformative technologies bring to our economy, and also the significance of our economy here in the West Midlands, if I may say, but also in Cambridge and Peterborough, and that omni-highway that is going to connect us, and the pools that are going to become oceans, David, as that omni-highway delivers. I think it's really significant too that industry here in the Midlands is recognizing this transformation, and Ian Callum, the design director at Jaguar, said only recently the car industry after 100 years is about to change as never before. We stand at this point in time. And I want to just close these opening thoughts with this thought. Who would have thought, after 40 years since Knight Rider bought kit to our screens, that we here in Britain would be in the vanguard of these developments? And isn't it clever of Connectical as the instigator of this evening's entertainment and amazing event to bring Gemma as an intelligent in-vehicle concierge to us today on International Women's Day? Hear, hear. Thank you all very much.
So don't worry, I'm not a random stranger just picking up the microphone. So my name's Obi from Cambridge Wireless, and I'm here, and I've brought some of my colleagues and partners over here. So we're the Cambridge, or with the Mayor of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough here. And so later on, I'll be introducing James as well. And I remember, so for Cambridge Wireless, so we're a not-for-profit technology membership organization, been around 17 years. So some of our members include Arm, Qualcomm, Intel, Jaguar, Land Rover, Amazon, Google, a lot of scale-ups, about 430 corporates, and also the universities, so you mustn't forget the academia as well. And what I noticed was we had these special interest groups, about 20 from AI, machine learning, industrial IoT, so smart cities. And what I noticed was about a year and a half ago, I gave a presentation last year. When I used to travel around the UK, I noticed some companies creating these pods or autonomous vehicles, connected vehicles. And I was a bit concerned because what they may be doing is a bit of a land grab out there, and they may be creating closed proprietary platforms. And I could see duplication of effort and resource from some parts of the UK. And I was thinking, you know, what Cambridge is doing, Birmingham's doing, Warwick is doing, and other places. So I just wanted to make sure that in collaborating with each other and partners there, that we can share some of the resource and some of the learnings. So what I did was I got in touch with MCAV And then I got in touch with David Hardman, and I said, look, I want to create, because there's some personal connections here with Birmingham, I want to create this tech corridor. So David looked at me and said, no, you don't. I said, okay. And he said, you want to create a super data highway. And I said, okay, David, so what does that mean? And I think the thing is here, the message I want to give is it's great we're all meeting here and we network and collaborating, but actually the hard work is going to be after today. And if we can just work on 1 or 2 tangible projects, and then later on we can talk about these are the actual outcomes, and we should be able to collaborate on some of these projects. The other 2 things is, yes, we're talking about data highway and autonomous vehicles, but this data highway and fast data highway and the implications of 5G, and we have my CEO, Robert Driver, on the panel session who will talk to you more about 5G, hopefully. It could extend to healthcare, connected healthcare, and it can actually, what we learned today with this collaboration, it can reach out to agri-tech and lots of other sectors as well. So I think we should be open how we collaborate. And the last thing is, whatever we can do, as Beverly said, it should be world-class, and this should be a template for maybe Birmingham and Coventry, or Birmingham or London, or Cambridge and Oxford, or maybe not, but Cambridge and some other people as well. Just kidding. So I welcome you today. I'm excited to work with you today and behind the scenes, and I look forward to chatting to you later. And now I'm going to introduce you to Monique, who will just tell you a little bit about MCAV and Congestion. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, for being here today. My name's Monique. I'm a partner at Congestion. And there's quite a large percentage of you that already know about the Congestion story and why MCAV is set up. But for those audience members that don't, I'm just going to spend a few minutes explaining who Congestion are and what we do, and also how MCAV came to be about. So, about 3 years ago, Congestion formed as an organization. 5 co-founding members got together and decided that they were going to introduce, in effect, tech for good into the smart city agenda. It feeds directly into what we do today. So what Congestion does is provide a connected transport for autonomous, a connected platform for autonomous transport. So what that means is we can take any vehicle and autonomize it, and importantly, provide it with that connected platform. So why is a connected platform vital or needed or required for an autonomous vehicle offering? A number of reasons. Firstly, if as a passenger you want to interact and engage with it, it's the connected platform that allows you to interact with it. It's the connected platform that allows you to hail a vehicle and have it come to your doorstep or to your feet. Furthermore, it's a connected platform which provides interactive services within the vehicle. So a passenger, once they're on board, they can utilize social media, they can maybe communicate to other members, whether it's family or friends, but also as well, God forbid, if they feel like being productive on a journey, they can do a bit of work. There is one final aspect as well of a connected platform. It allows for an operator of connected autonomous vehicles to actually view the fleet, manage the fleet, optimize that fleet, and provide an on-demand service to the locality, to the local community. So it really is bringing a proper application of autonomous vehicles to solve problems. And one of the big themes that you'll hear about today and continuously through any CAV workshop or agenda is the mobility as a service theme. Providing mobility, providing intelligent services, providing smart services. Hence, for all of that to be enabled, you need a connected platform. I suppose one other advantage I just want to point out as well is that that platform allows for accessibility as well. So all members of the community, including the elderly and the visually impaired, can also access that technology. Generally part of the community that is forgotten when high-end technology is being created. So again, very briefly, Condigital started off by working on a particular project that was based on the Heathrow pod. So on the left there, you can see a couple of Heathrow vehicles. So that's a system that currently runs at Heathrow Airport. It's been running there for the last 4 years. It transports people between a car park and Terminal 5. And in that bottom left-hand picture, you can see the vehicles actually inside the terminal. So it's a zero-emission car. It can go inside buildings. So Condigital started work with a mini consortium which involved Heathrow Airport themselves, Westfield Sports Car, Birmingham City University, and another tech company called Fusion. Together, we are creating and are currently on a 3-year-long project to create the second generation of Heathrow Pod. And it has all of those services I've just earlier mentioned: a connected, smart, intelligent service and platform. Just briefly, Condigital suite of products onto the vehicle include that connectivity between the passenger and the vehicle. You can see that in the top left-hand corner. A suite of products on the vehicle itself, providing that interactivity, and the operating system, which we call a fleet management system. And those 3 systems combined at the top there provide a data flow from the passenger, vehicle, operator, vehicle, passenger. And you can create that data flow. And what it allows for the operator to do is to hone in their services so that the passenger receives a better service every time they take a journey. So why MCAV? Why have we created MCAV? This is down to me and my business partner, Dom. Whenever we went up and down the country attending seminars or attending CAV workshops, it was great being there, but there was a consensus among a lot of the business partners that we met and a lot of the organizations we were rubbing shoulders with. And that was that the CAV was missing an industry body. It was missing an association, a cluster where the CAV industry could have a voice, could set the agenda, and bring forward to the forefront the barriers that they were facing when trying to bring the adoption of CAVs into the market segments that they had targeted. So with the following organizations and with their support, we set up the first MCAV event. That was June 27th last year. It was in this room. It was a sellout event with close to 180 to 200 people here with guest speakers, including the likes of Heathrow and Evershed Sutherland and TFWM, all having major roles. And they've really helped push MCAV and the agenda. So what are MCAV's mission? Ultimately, it is to ensure that the CAV industry is up and running and is embedded in the UK. Particularly, the UK needs as many high-end manufacturing jobs and industries up and running, given what's coming over the next few years. It is vital that we have a high-end technology industry that is working for everybody and working for the organizations here. And don't forget, CAV is very much a global market. We want our members, or MCAV members, definitely to be able to secure contracts, secure business, generate revenue for your own organizations by utilizing the network that we have here today. And we want it to be a forum where you hear the latest in respect of legislation, whether that's in respect of cybersecurity, in respect of road safety, or GDPR. You get to hear the latest news on each of those issues right here. The same for the funding landscape. You'll hear straight from the funding bodies exactly what's prominent and what's key today. Finally, we want MCAV to be able to aid recruitment and help upskill the local workforce and the national workforce. And in that respect, we see local authorities, academia, and university playing a really key role. Well, one point I want to mention here is, initially from a almost selfish point of view, we wanted our network in the same room so everyone got to see each other, everyone understood that the relationships we were talking about were real, that it wasn't just hearsay. But what we want to do from a holistic point of view is to let our network ultimately become your network, and it's a network we want to hand over definitely to industry. Finally, last year we announced that we were going to help forge what was at that point a technology corridor between Birmingham and Cambridge. It has been upgraded to a superhighway thanks to David. And in that respect, and for that reason, to develop that corridor between that superhighway between those two regions, we feel that Cambridge has a set of skills and expertise, and the same in respect of Birmingham as well, have a set of skill and expertise which both regions can leverage upon to help embed that CAV industry. Hence, we've invited the mayors of Birmingham and the mayor of Cambridge, Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, up here today to talk about their respective regions. So I'm going to leave you in the safe hands now of Jackie from Climate Kick, and I think Shu, please do give her a warm welcome. Thank you very much.
Is it that one there? That's not me. I could talk about this, but that's me. I love the way everyone's got really professional pictures, and that's me halfway up the Long Mynd 2 years ago in the snow. So I am cluster lead for Climate Kick, and Climate Kick has been one of Connecticut's supporters. They've been through our accelerator program, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that means. So Don kindly invited me to talk to you this evening, and then said, I think you better explain a little bit what Climate Kick is, because some people won't know. So in 5 minutes, I have to explain the pan-European organisation that Climate Kick is and how we can contribute to the clusters. So bear with. So I am cluster lead for UK and Ireland. EIT Climate Kick. KIC stands for Knowledge Innovation Community. And I think from the presentations we've had today and some of the things we've heard this evening, that idea of community and supporting communities around particular technologies or challenges is really important. The EIT is our funder. That's the European Institute for Innovation and Technology, and that is funded by the European Commission, currently through the Horizon 2020 programme. So just very quickly, and I've put slides up so because they're quicker to go through. We have a vision, and that's to enable Europe to lead the global transformation towards sustainability. Climate Kick is one of a number of cliques that are looking to address the big societal challenges that Europe has. And climate change is one of those, and mobility clearly figures within the need to address climate change. And we bring together and empower a dynamic community. And importantly, and I'm just really going to draw on point B there, that it's all actors. So we have in our community startups, we have OEMs, we have universities, and we have cities. So we want to supply technology, but we also want to understand what the demand for that innovation and technology is in order to make sure that the markets are created or the markets are there for the technology that's coming through. You can see here we have 254 partners in total. I believe that's now 270. And you can see the spread as well. So we are spread across business, academia, and the public sector. And we are also divided into geographies, and I form part of the UK and Ireland geography. The cities involved in the UK and Ireland are Birmingham, and we're based here in Icentrum, London, Edinburgh, and Dublin, all of whom are looking to develop their cluster activity to accelerate climate innovation. In case anyone's wondering, the DAC geography is Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. I think the others speak for themselves. But there are huge opportunities to interact with people in all these other geographies. So, for example, within the Nordics, there's some great stuff going on in Copenhagen, Malmo, Gothenburg. All these other cities are partners in Climate Kick, and there's a huge amount we can also learn from them and bring this cluster and some of the things we are doing and the great practice into those cities too. That is just a map to show the spread of Climate Kick and where we are located, so you can see where the offices are based in the UK and Ireland. There's one in Birmingham. And these are just a very broad overview of some of the partners, so you can see the types of organisations that are involved. So there, as I said, there are big companies, city authorities, small companies. And there are a number of themes that we work on. So we work on sustainable production systems, so very much looking at things like the circular economy, sustainable land use, decision metrics and financing, and urban transitions. And within the urban transitions theme, there is an impact goal, as we call them. You've got to love all the terminology. An impact goal around clean urban mobility. And in that, there is a focus on mobility as a service. So how can we enable cities and urban environments to make the transition from the very traditional modes of transport we see now into moving towards some of the, or accommodating some of the more disruptive technologies that are going to help with, yes, our carbon reduction goals, but also some of our social and economic goals. And how is that going to provide opportunity moving forward? And then the little mortarboard in the middle refers to some of the things that we also support around education, entrepreneurship, and research and innovation. And Climate Kick is host to one of the world's largest climate accelerator programs, and Digital were part of that process. So you can see we've supported more than 1,000 startups, and there's some of the other statistics there. So in 2016, 250 ideas incubated. And there's also been significant leverage by some of our startups for additional funding, private sector investment. So I think it's great to try and integrate some of this accelerator activity into some of the city challenges to make sure that what people are providing through the startup program is properly integrated with the needs of our urban environments. And just some final thoughts. We need, in order to achieve the Paris goals, to decarbonize 6 times faster than anything the global community has seen so far. That is a massive challenge, and we're only going to do that by collaborating and working with each other and developing cluster activity in the UK and Ireland, but also across Europe. So it'd be great to see this sort of cluster develop much more widely across our KIC community. That cities are key to delivery because they are dense, they have big populations, that they also need to be ready for disruptive technology, and I don't think they are at the minute. There isn't the right infrastructure, maybe some of the right thought processes in place. But in order to achieve point 1, we're going to need some serious disruptive technology, like some of the things we've heard today around connected and autonomous vehicles. They need to engage properly with startup communities, and that obviously this clustering activity is going to be a really important way that we can support that going forward. So, thank you. Now I need some direction. Okay. So I had his slides, didn't I? There we are. Okay.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Hello again, everyone. For those of you that have joined us after after the workshop. My name is George Philip, and I am the manager for KTN. And I have been asked to give a very short intro about what KTN does and who we are. And because I'm probably one of the few people that are standing in between you and the main course, I'll make it very, very short. So the KTN is the UK's innovation network. We're bringing together innovators, businesses, academia, and scholars in order to create and develop new products, technologies, and innovations that can increase the potential for business growth in the UK. We do this by having a focus on a series of sectors. As you can see on the slides, we're mostly focused on creative and digital, new technologies, graphene, transport, basically everything where the UK, we believe that the UK can actually progress. But we focus mostly on cross-sector projects because we believe those are the ones that actually help drive innovation. So we are the UK's, Innovate UK's network partner, and we have expertise in all sectors with the ability to actually cross disciplines and actually lead to innovations. We are the ones that actually help and run the funding competition events for Innovate UK, for CCAV, BASE, DFT, and so on. We also help in the application process and give feedback on proposals for companies and universities. We also facilitate the consortium building process. We're establishing relationships between companies and academia and SMEs, of course. And we also, most importantly, we help in the knowledge transfer process from one sector to another. How we do achieve this and how do we go about doing this? Basically, we take use of our industry communities. We have almost 38,000 organizations in our community. We have a series of cross-sector groups and special interest groups. We have more than 90,000 members and more than 10,000 delegates per year to our briefing events. So, in summary, we help companies and universities find expertise, find markets, and find finance. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all the speakers and introducing themselves and what they do in their respective organizations. The mains are about to start, so please enjoy. Thank you.
passenger cars. Up to this point, we've been developing and testing on proving grounds, on test tracks. We're now in the real world, which is a much more complex environment. The economic opportunity for Coventry is to be at the centre of a new car industry in terms of both electric vehicles, autonomous vehicles, actually cars talking to themselves and the world around it. I think is extraordinary. Safety is paramount importance to us. We're operating under the code of practice of the UK government has issued, so we will always have very experienced test drivers in the vehicles. In 1896, Coventry became the centre, the birthplace of the car industry. People who are at the heart of this city will want to embrace this. The opportunity in Bristol is extraordinary.
Introducing Software Series 7. Start your morning with Summon. Log equipment, summon your Tesla from the Tesla app. Automatically opening the garage, pulling out, and closing the garage door. Combine the newly streamlined interface with enhanced control and versatility in your daily commute. Over-the-air updates continually improve and add new features to Autopilot. Autopilot removes the stress from your daily. Designed for highway use, Autopilot assists you with the routines of daily driving, whether you're cruising or crawling. To the left and right of the speedometer, find the icons for traffic-aware cruise control and auto steer. Use the tail display when available, and blue when empty. Use the cruise stop to engage traffic-aware cruise control. Pull it toward you once to engage smart speed. Twice to activate auto steer as well. Leaving your hands on the wheel, ease back as traffic-aware cruise control maintains your cruising speed, dynamically adjusting in response to other vehicles. Auto steer will keep to the curve of the road, sensing both the lane boundaries and the surrounding traffic. If you wish to change lanes, check your space and signal as usual. This triggers auto lane change, which will merge you safely into the desired lane. To disengage Autopilot, push the button on the outside of the cruise stop. Push the stop forward or press the brake. Auto steer can be deactivated without affecting traffic-aware cruise control by turning the wheel a few degrees. Please remember that these features are meant only for highway use. Keep your hands on the wheel at all times and stay alert. Auto Park includes a suite of Autopilot features. As you drive past an open spot, pull about 1 car length ahead and come to a complete stop. Model S will scan the space and display the keywords you requested. Signal and shift to reverse. Press start and Autopilot will initiate, guiding you perfectly into position. Autopilot changes the way you relate when you drive. It expands your awareness of Model S and its surroundings, enhances your ability to respond, and gives you more comfort and energy during and after the drive.
The item delivered or collect in store today.
Collect today, please.
Would you like to continue shopping or check out now?
Check out now.
Would you like to pay now or in store?
Now, please.
The total amount is $19.99. Touch your card on the help you with that? It will be approximately a 2-minute walk. You have arrived at your destination. Can I help you with anything else?
No, thank you.
Enjoy your day.
Auto RD, we want to develop the technology to allow autonomous motorcycles. If we are enthusiastic about motorcycling because that is responsible service, what we're after doing is taking some of the danger out of motorcycling and actually making it a more accessible and more useful means of transport. It's a large job to develop a fully autonomous motorcycle. So we've started with partners unique to motorcycles, first of all. And that's the problem of making a motorcycle balance itself and making it follow the trajectory you want it to follow. Putting on the necessary actuators and sensors to do that. In the car world, you can go out and buy a car which has already got electric power assisted steering, electronically controlled brakes, throttle, and so on. But in the motorcycle world, that doesn't exist. So we've had to, first of all, equip a motorcycle with that technology and then develop the control system that enables it to balance itself. For conventional motorcycles, there are a lot of accidents that are caused by rider error. And if a motorcycle actually knows what's going on around it, the road environment, then it's got every opportunity to intervene and to save the rider in circumstances where there would otherwise be an accident. With cars, this is becoming increasingly common with features such as autonomous emergency braking and collision avoidance fire steering. There are a lot of places in the world where motorcycles are used as taxis, and in the future, we think there's going to be a very clear business case to automate those taxi services. One of the interesting early applications for us is actually on automotive test trains, where automotive manufacturers need to test the way that the new driver assistance systems or autonomous systems in their cars interact with motorcycles. And validating the way that sort of interaction happens in potential accident situations is something
vehicle project that's been funded by government, where we are trialling and demonstrating connected and autonomous passenger cars. Up to this point, we've been developing and testing on proving grounds, on test tracks. We're now in the real world, which is a much more complex environment. The economic opportunity for Coventry to be at the centre of a new car industry in terms of both electric vehicles, autonomous vehicles, actually cars talking to themselves and the world around it, I think is extraordinary. Safety is paramount importance to us. We're operating under a code of practice that the government has issued, so we will always have very experienced test drivers in the vehicles. In 1896, Coventry became the centre, the birthplace of the car industry. People who are at the heart of this city will want to embrace this. The opportunity it gives them is extraordinary.
Introducing Software Series 7. Start in the morning with Summon. While you get ready, summon your Tesla from your Tesla app. Automatically opening your garage, pulling out, and closing your garage for you. Combining a newly streamlined interface with the enhanced control and versatility of your daily commute. Over-the-air updates continually improve and add new features to Autopilot. Autopilot relieves the stress from your commute. Designed for highway use, Autopilot assists you with the routines of daily driving, whether you're cruising or crawling. To the left and right of the speedometer, find the icons for traffic-aware cruise control and auto steer. These appear as gray when available, and blue when active. Use the cruise stop to engage traffic-aware cruise control. Hold forward your once to engage smart speed. Twice to activate auto steer as well. Keeping your hands on the wheel, ease back gives traffic-aware cruise control and maintains your cruising speed, dynamically adjusting in response to other vehicles. Auto steer will keep to the curve of the road, sensing both the lane boundaries and the surrounding traffic. If you wish to change lanes, check the space and signal as usual. This triggers auto lane change, which will merge you safely in the desired lane. To disengage Autopilot, push the button on the outside of the cruise stop, push the stop forward, or press the brake. Auto steer can be deactivated without affecting traffic-aware cruise control by turning the wheel a few degrees. Please remember that these features are meant only for highway use. Keep your hands on the wheel at all times and stay alert. Auto Park completes a suite of Autopilot features. As you drive past a local spot, pull about 1 car length ahead to come to a complete stop. Model S will scan the space and display a P in your instrument cluster. Signal will shift to reverse. Press Start, and Auto Park will initiate, guiding you perfectly into position. Autopilot changes the way you relate to your drive. It expands your awareness of Model S and its surroundings, enhances your ability to respond, and gives you more comfort and energy during and after the drive.
Check out now.
Oxford white shirt, size medium. Would you like to have the item delivered or collect in store today?
Collect today, please.
Would you like to continue shopping or check out now?
Check out now.
Would you like to pay now or in store?
Now, please.
The total amount is $19.99. Put your card on the pay point, please. Your payment has ready for production. Can I help you with anything else today?
Yes. Can I have directions from the main entrance in store to Zara, please?
Yes, I can help you with that. It will be approximately a 2-minute walk. You have arrived at your destination. Can I help you with anything else?
No, thank you.
Enjoy your day.
Auto ID, we want to develop the technology to allow autonomous motorcycles. We are enthusiastic about motorcycles because about autonomy. What we're after doing is taking some of the danger out of motorcycling and actually making it more accessible and more useful. It's a large job to develop a fully autonomous motorcycle. So we've started with parts that unique to motorcycles first of all. And that's the problem of making a motorcycle balance itself and making it follow the trajectory that you want it to follow. Putting on the necessary actuators and sensors to do that. In the car world, you can go out and buy a car which has already got electric power-assisted steering, electronically controlled brakes, throttle and so on. But in the motorcycle world, that doesn't exist. So we've had to, first of all, equip a motorcycle with that technology and then develop the control system that enables it to balance itself. For conventional motorcycles, there are a lot of accidents that are caused by rider error. And if the motorcycle actually knows what's going on around the road environment, then it's got every opportunity to intervene and to save the rider in circumstances where there would otherwise be an accident. With cars, this is becoming increasingly common with features such as autonomous emergency braking, collision avoidance fire steering. See, there are a lot of places in the world where motorcycles are used as taxis, and in the future we think there's going to be a very clear business case to automate those taxi services. One of the interesting early applications for it is actually on automotive test tracks, where automotive manufacturers need to test the way that the new driver assistance systems or autonomic systems in their cars interact with motorcycles. And validating the way that sort of interaction happens in potential accident situations is something that can't really be done with a human rider on the motorcycle, because if something goes wrong, we obviously need a very damaging or even fatal accident. At the moment we're using a motorcycle with a conventional internal combustion. Ultimately we're going to apply this to electric motorcycles. So in Ho Chi Minh City, when we want to replace the taxis with autonomous motorcycle taxis, they will be electric. And part of the reason we're here is to find new partners to work with, because the job of actually developing the full autonomy system for a motorcycle is not one that we propose to tackle on our own. So we're looking for partners who will help us along the road to doing that. We're also looking to meet potential customers for our technology.
Okay, ready? Can you hear me? Yes, okay.
they were holding it behind the speaker. Because when he did it earlier and he held it in the right place, you could hear him right at the back. On the stadium.
Sorry. Yeah. Fine.
All right. That's fine. This side, always this side.
Yeah, do you want to flick it on when you're ready to come on?
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah, so flick. Yeah. Zoom in.
Testing, 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 testing. You all right?
Ready? Yeah. I think they're just going to introduce it now. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you all very much indeed. I'm really keen now to get to the main part of the evening, if I can refer to it like in that way. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome this evening Mayor of the West Midlands, Andy Street. Now, Andy needs really very little introduction, I think. Obviously, we all know he's former Chief Executive of John Lewis Partnership, former Chair of the GBS LEP, has a CBE for National Services to Business, was voted Most Admired Leader by Management Today. So the plaudits, I can go on and on about this, but Andy and I got to know each other quite well about a year ago now, when I was standing as the Liberal Democrat mayoral candidate, and Andy and I went through how many hustings together, Andy?
I think it was 49, Beverly. So I spent more time with her than anybody else.
So, but one thing I can say about Andy that you may not all of you know here is Andy is a fantastically professional person in all circumstances, even when you're violently disagreeing with each other across a podium. And I would have to also say a really quick study, because I do remember in between hustings, I would say to you, oh yeah, well, do you know everything about energy, Andy? And you'd say, well, maybe not now, but by tomorrow, Beverly, I will. So I'm very impressed by this. One other thing, Andy, I remember when we were asked for a funny story ahead of one of our hustings introductions, and you were asked for one, and you said that you had some sheep. Would you like to tell us this briefly?
I don't think it was very funny, my story, but it passed muster on the time. So yeah, I have a few sheep. And at that time, I was CEO of John Lewis, and of course, John Lewis shares its stable with Waitrose. And I thought, wouldn't it be good if I could become a supplier of lamb to Waitrose? So I fattened my sheep, got them taken off to be tested by the Waitrose buyers, and was told, no, my sheep were definitely Welsh upland sheep, naff, poor quality, no way they could grace the shelves of Waitrose. So I never achieved my turn in being a supplier to Waitrose.
So you see, there are things that Andy hasn't succeeded at. that made me feel quite good on that occasion. Now, I don't know, we're here this evening considering connected infrastructures, and I don't know if, like our family, you occasionally play Monopoly, and maybe if you do, you sort of think about where's the best road to be in Birmingham, the best road. Well, outside, we're beside Love Lane. Don't know whether you're aware of that. Jennings Row is just down the road, but I'd like to say inside here tonight we have the best street in Birmingham, the Mayor of the West Midlands, Andy Street. Thank you, Andy.
Has my earpiece fallen off? Is it back there? No, come and deal with it, Mike. Mike works for the Combined Authority. His job description knows no ends, obviously. Deal with that quickly. Right, okay. All right, so good evening, everybody. And for those of you who are visiting Birmingham and the West Midlands, whether it be from Cambridge, big welcome to our friends from Cambridge. And the team from Helsinki at the back, thank you very much. I asked them why they've come here, why they've launched their app called WIM here as the first city outside Helsinki, and their answer has made my evening because this will become the most innovative place in Europe. So you are indeed very welcome to have come all the way from Helsinki. Now, I've just put a few slides together. I will freely admit I've got some trepidation. This is not my expert subject. There's lots of you in the room who know a lot more about it, but I hope what this says is this is really, really important to us. And that's why I've chosen to be here tonight with lots of chaps in suits when it's International Women's Day. And there are men and one or two women as well. Sorry, I didn't mean not that. When it's International Women's Day. And there are many events across the city tonight celebrating International Women's Day. So brilliant that we can be here. So this is important to us. That is not the first slide. Oh, it's gone up in... Wrong deck. What are you going to do about that, Mike? Sorry about this. All was going so well until that point. Can you sort it out, Mike? Let's just see. How long is this going to take us? Because I might be very, very naughty and ask James Palmer if he'd like to take the stage first, because I know he said to me earlier, I don't need slides. I do it all from memory. So that put me in my place very effectively. Let me just see. What do you think, Mike? James, do you mind talking first? And I will sort that out. I'm really sorry.
Picked up yesterday's deck.
The other one's on.
Speak louder. Hello. Right, okay. So what we'll do here is Don was saying after Beverly said, Obi, beat that. And I just replied, in Cambridge, we do things a bit more low-key. But anyway, we're not going to have a rowing competition here. So I'm going to introduce James Palmer, Mayor of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. I'm going to read from a script here because this was from his office. James, if that's okay with you, in terms of an introduction. So James Palmer was born and raised in Soham, Cambridgeshire. He has lived and worked in Cambridgeshire all his life. In 2007, James was elected for the first time as Conservative Councillor on East Cambridgeshire District Council, representing the Soham North Ward. He was re-elected in 2011 and was swiftly appointed Deputy Leader of the Council. In May 2013, he was elected leader of the council. As leader for 4 years, James developed a reputation for being dynamic. Solutions were found for many of East Cambridgeshire's key infrastructure challenges, challenges that were seen by many as being intractable. So between 2009 and 2017, James also represented Soham and Fordham villages on Cambridgeshire County Council. Central to James' vision as mayor is connecting the north of the area he represents to the south in order to ensure that the socio-economic benefits associated with the rapid growth around Cambridge are spread across the whole of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. coming towards the end here, a prerequisite for ensuring that the Greater Cambridge phenomenon is truly sustainable. Lastly, outside of politics, James used to run a development company with his wife and also a dairy, not a diary, a dairy business. So with that in mind, no slides, right? Over to you, James.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much. It's very, very interesting. Andy and I have ended up doing the same job. Of course, I read Andy's bio earlier, which is about that big, and mine was about that big underneath. Effectively, Andy used to run John Lewis and I used to deliver milk. So our similarities are not exactly there across all levels. But what we do have in common is that neither of us are career politicians. Certainly, I never expected to be standing in Birmingham talking about autonomous vehicles and the future development of them when I was first elected to a local district council. But life throws up strange challenges, and here I am. And it's an absolute privilege to be representing Cambridge here, and Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, of course. And I'm very interested with the link up between Birmingham and Cambridge and the meeting of minds that is there. It's very strange in the UK. We see distance in a different way to our international competitors. 100 miles between Cambridge and Birmingham is absolutely nothing, of course, unless you have to travel here by train, when it can feel a bit of a long way. Believe you me, these distances are not something our competitors in the States, in the Far East, even consider. And we've got to stop in the UK believing that we are in a fight with our near neighbours to succeed, because in actual fact we're not in a fight with our near neighbours, we are in a fight with international trade, and a fight that we can absolutely win in this country. Because if we meet the knowledge of our greatest universities along with the engineering success of our greatest cities, there is absolutely no doubt that post-Brexit we can lead as we have done in the past, and we can lead in the future. So being here excites me tremendously, because I'm looking at what can be achieved, and I'm looking at the future, and I'm hearing on my table the future is very close, and I'm absolutely delighted to hear that. We in Cambridge and Cambridgeshire have a massive problem with infrastructure. When I hear about the problems of the Midlands engine, I only wish we had the infrastructure you have here, because in the Fens and in the East, we have been the poor cousin that's been left out and ignored. So it's my job to try and bring forward that infrastructure, and that's what a mayor has the ability to do, to disrupt the status quo, to try and do things differently. So I'm proposing to try and stretch the Cambridge cluster away from its very comfortable city of Cambridge and bring it out into the countryside around the city, allowing more business to come in and take advantage of the cheaper land in the north and take advantage of the opportunities that are absolutely there. We have got so many businesses that want to come to our part of the world, it is only right that I try and accommodate them, being a nice, kind person as I am. So one of the things we've discussed, and one of the things that we are getting on with, is a new autonomous underground metro system that will link not just the city, but the surrounding towns and villages, allowing growth beyond the city itself, not creating urban sprawl, but new towns, new villages around the Cambridge area. And I'm very excited to put forward an electric autonomous system. That new system is from Hunan province in China, and I challenge everybody in this room, if you can put me a tram system together that I can bring forward from the UK, I would much rather have one that was made here, innovated here, and delivered on the streets of Cambridge within the next 3 to 5 years. Okay, we'll do it. Okay, no problem, get on with it. So I've seen what's happening. I think that it's very exciting. If we can do it here, let's do it here. What I'm also interested in is how we link to a tram system across the wider network. What I don't quite see yet, and I'm hearing it can be done, but we can't quite yet do it on our roads, is a way that we can replace the antiquated bus systems that I have problems with across my county, and mainly rural county, linking into the new automated metro. Our buses tend to drive around the county with very few people on them, and they're highly polluting, as you know. So what I want to see, and my challenge again to you, is let's get these things on the road. Let's put them on the road, and let's see if we can get people in them and moving around the county much more freely. Yes, there are challenges, I know, and I've heard a few things that can be done to make sure these things can work, but it's only by challenging the innovators that we get the true innovation that we need. So I think the future is extraordinary. But I'm quite greedy and impatient, and I really want the future now, because people are coming up to me and say, you keep talking about these schemes, when are you going to put them in? So we can do some of the things. I can put the automated metro in, but I really want to link that in a better way to have a much more integrated transport system. So I didn't come with loads of slides like Andy, and I'm sorry that I'm not impressing you with them at the moment, but I hope that what you're seeing here is you're seeing somebody who really cares about the society that he's from, who really understands the need to bring forward a world-class, truly integrated transport system, and who's prepared to work alongside you to make sure that we bring those things forward. Cambridge has always been known as an innovator and is at the top of the tree when it comes to life science and technology. There is absolutely no reason why we shouldn't be at the top of the tree when it comes to infrastructure and innovation in that area as well. So my challenge to you, great people, is come to me and I will do whatever I can to get your systems working in Cambridgeshire and get your systems on the road and get people in them. Thank you.
Okay, go back. Okay, thank you very much. So first thing, James, very big thank you to you. The lesson is very clear. It's safer if you don't come with your slides. So there we are. And I guess the other sort of conclusion of what's just happened is we need an autonomous presenter, never mind an autonomous driver. So there we have it. Anyway, I want to say a few words about what's going on here. And the two things I want you to reflect on at the end of it is it's really important to us, and it's actually happening. This is not theory, it is happening on the ground now. And this is a race we are going to win. So, talking about winning, those of you visiting need to know this is a place that is on the rise. So, productivity growth, comparing the West Midlands and the UK as a whole, there are the numbers for the last 3 years. And startups, Birmingham, Manchester, Glasgow, our three closest rival cities, you see the numbers there. So we are indeed enjoying a resurgence, and tonight is all about being part of that resurgence. Led to this wonderful headline that I loved in the Sunday Times just about 5 weeks ago now: Birmingham, the cradle of the start-up revolution. And indeed, the team there are based here in Innovation Birmingham, one of the driving forces of what's happening here in the West Midlands. But this really matters to us, and we think we've got a great position. And this is why. Left-hand side shows the proportions of the automotive industry, not autonomous automotive, total automotive in each region of the country. There is a slight health warning, and I don't know why it was done this way from the ONS. They excluded London and the South East. I think that's a clever trick if you can pull it off regularly. And there we have 43% of the automotive industry in the West Midlands. If you take the share of R&D in automotive that's done in the West Midlands, it's over 50%. So we have a globally significant cluster here. The map on the right-hand side is a very, possibly hidden, but very important page from the government's recent industrial strategy. And there's one for each of the key challenges that they pull out, and there is the one for the automotive cluster, glowing red around the West Midlands. So we are extremely well placed for this. But it matters, because if we don't sustain our lead, we lose one of the engines of our recent success. And that's why, in the region's strategic economic plan, which came out of the LEP's plans, the 3 of those, we've highlighted the import of a number of key sectors. Obviously, advanced manufacturing and automotive within that is absolutely critical, but so are some of what I would call the adjacent sectors to this. So high-speed rail, logistics, transport, and of course, low-carbon technology. And it's how they abut manufacturing which is so interesting. So they are absolutely critical to us. And they are being changed. They are all being digitized. So we say, as it says on the screen, that the digital sort of revolution is the golden thread that runs across all of our sectors. And I'm really clear, we will lead if we lead in the digital transformation of those sectors. And the brilliant news, and my apologies, James, this is a wee bit of a sort of indulgent moment for the West Midlands, is if you look at the scale of our digital sector, more digital and tech businesses here than other areas around the country. 60% more than Greater Manchester. Now, okay, we might not yet have an Apple or a Microsoft, but that really is a sign of incredible underlying strength as we go through the digital revolution. And we're building the sort of structural parts that will drive this revolution. A recent success we had, the battery centre, that's what it will be in Coventry, £98 million of government investment behind this with Warwick Manufacturing Group to think about electric vehicles and the sort of science and R&D behind that. And think, electric vehicles will converge with autonomous production in due course. So we have that. We have some wonderful existing institutions. So the Transport Design Centre, Icentrum that we're here, the National Automotive Innovation Centre, £1 billion of investment there that will open in Coventry later this year. And then if we carry on, the catapults, the Advanced Propulsion Centre, and of course, the Manufacturing Technology Centre, an incredible success story, thinking about closing that gap between the innovation in the universities and the actual application in industry. Incredible success story here in our region. And many other assets that we've got as we go into this. I love the London Electric Vehicle Company. That's all now about new technology there as well. So it's important and we're well placed with critical assets. But it is already happening on our streets, is the next sort of story. Now I want to pull out the actual practical things that are happening here in the West Midlands. And the first project was what we called UK Autodrive, a collaboration between the area around Coventry and Milton Keynes. And this is actually on the Myra test track at Nuneaton. It is the autonomous vehicle. The fire engine, I will admit, is not autonomous. It's a sort of slight lack of confidence, isn't it, when the first trials are done accompanied by a fire engine. But you've got to start somewhere. But it's happening there, on that track. And just to prove I'm not the average politician, when the Prime Minister and the Chancellor were refusing to go in autonomous vehicles, because all the jokes were going to be written in the Sunday papers, there's me on the test track at Myra. And it was genuinely a brilliant, confidence-giving experience in that Land Rover. It was there on the track. But it's not just about safe conditions. It's not just about the desert in California. This picture was taken, I think, last October in Coventry city centre. The BX17 vehicle is an autonomous vehicle. It's still got a driver in at the moment. That's what the regulation says. But it's been operated autonomously. I love the picture. The chap on his mobile phone, totally blissfully unaware of anything going on around him. The car has to stop and it sees him. And then, also in Coventry, some of the most challenging urban central junctions, that's happening. And so that's there. Secondarily, though, and I forgot the next slide. My apologies. And the wonderful thing about the vehicles, some of the vehicles being used in this, they are also being made in Coventry, in this case from RDM as the manufacturer there. And we'll talk about some of our other manufacturers in a minute. Then we roll on. A bit more complexity. The second project, that will go live very, very shortly is on that network of West Midlands roads, linking Coventry, Solihull, and down to the M40. So a link of A roads, motorway roads, urban roads. And we will start testing vehicles there in April. So we will bring it to exactly those roads in the south of Coventry, as well as motorway roads as well. So to a new level of testing. And then the third test bed, and this is really exciting because this is about competition. So Mike, who had to do my slides earlier on, but that's not his day job, he leads for the Combined Authority on this whole question of CAV, working with lots of you in the room through MCAV. And we were lucky under the government's Industrial Challenge Fund, I think it was about October, November, to win a substantial sum of money, very large proportion of the national sum actually, to extend our testing to the next test bed, which will take us between Coventry, Solihull and Birmingham. Practical tests on the roads. So we're not just manufacturing the products and things like that. We're also now thinking about the practical issues around testing. Now this is a slightly complex slide, but this is what we're trying, explains what we're trying to achieve in the third test bed. So yes, we've got, does the vehicle operate? But we're also beginning to think about the whole ecosystem that goes with this industry. How is the data managed? What are the regulatory pieces? What are the requirements for garaging? Obviously, what are the requirements for, as we call it, the whole ecosystem that goes around it? And some of the public policy issues will be being drawn out in this. And this is where some of the most interesting debate between us and central government is now going on, because we've got to move just beyond the simple test. So we feel we're right on the cutting edge of that. So I hope I've convinced you this isn't just theory. This is coming to a road near you, and the West Midlands is definitely leading in those tests. We don't have it all to ourselves. There are tests going on in Greenwich, and my goodness, there's tests going on in the south of Germany and in California. What we have got to do is win that race because it matters to our economy. But I'm confident that we will win that race. This was the home of mobility, as we know from these pictures from the 40s and 60s, but we can once again become the home of mobility. This slide I'm going to use at MIPIM, the big property conference next week in the south of France, and it talks about the network of public transport that is coming, some of the investments that are obviously being made, but our prowess in this autonomous vehicle piece is just as important to our future in mobility as actually the physical investments that are going on across the region. And we've got a brilliant opportunity to show to the world the progress that we've made. In this journey, I see these two events as two of the most critical sort of milestones along the way, because the world will be watching what's happened in this region by those two dates. And I see them as a sort of incentive to drive out innovation. Wouldn't it be marvellous if the athletes who come to Birmingham in 2022 are using the technology, Mr. Turner, produced by Westfield in Kings Winford, that I think you saw outside? It's your pod outside, isn't it? We have to show the world what we've done to commercialise them on those occasions. So, ladies and gentlemen, we can win this race. We're superbly set up. We welcome all the collaboration from our friends in Cambridge, but it is a race that we are definitely well set and are in pole position. Thank you for what you're doing to lead us through it. Thank you.
Members of the panel to join me now, please, on the platform if you'd like to come up. And we're going to spend about 10 minutes, and we're also, in that time, going to ask each of the panel members one question to start things off. And then, if anybody from around the room would like to ask a question, then we'll be very pleased to take those briefly. as I'm very conscious of time. So the question that I'm going to pose to our panel members is, what one key action out of today's proceedings would you see as a priority in order to move this critical agenda forward? Jackie, I'll start with you. Jackie.
Okay, thank you. I think it's about sustaining the conversations and the network and finding routes that we can continue to make that happen. I think so many people have talked about the whole idea of an ecosystem, a community of actors, and it's great to come together for an evening and talk about the things that are happening, but how can we continue the conversations and sustain the momentum going forwards?
A key action, basically. Yeah. James, you've thrown a couple of challenges down to us, building an autonomous tram system here, preferably in the West Midlands for Cambridge and Peterborough. What other key actions would you see coming out of?
Well, when I say that, I absolutely mean it, because the modern technology that's coming forward allows smaller cities to put in the world-class infrastructure that is really needed. So in the past, it would have been really impossible for Cambridge to put in a light rail, too expensive. But the new battery-run autonomous tram systems are much more affordable. So what I'm actually talking about is not create a tram for Cambridge, but it's create a tram for Cambridge, under 500,000 or around that, which have traditionally struggled to put in the world-class infrastructure necessary. So just expanding really on what I was saying earlier, it is a challenge, but believe you me, it's a challenge that is going to be very fruitful to whoever wins it. And I don't really want to go to China to buy the system. I would much rather buy the system from here, made in Britain, with British technology and made by British workers, of course. And I'm absolutely honest about that. But the reality is, I have to get something in, and I will be looking within 2 to 3 years to get something on the market, on the roads in Cambridge. So there is a time scale here.
It sounds like just the sort of challenge we want to hear anyway. So thank you for that. And Andy, what do you see as a real priority to take forward from this evening?
You all know this because you're practitioners. The big challenge is sufficient people with the right skills to drive this forward. It's the bit that was frankly missing from my presentation. All the companies that are active in this field say to me, I can't find the right engineers, I can't find the software developers, and we haven't yet developed the skills system to put those people in place. So it's a terribly easy thing for me to say, but we have to crack that, and that is what I have to do across the West Midlands.
Yes, well, obviously, he's working for a university, and I know many university colleagues around the room. It's something we feel passionately about, and we've got Julian Turner today here from Westfield, who's launching the National Engineering Academy. So I think this is a priority that is being taken very seriously, Andy. Robert Driver from Cambridge Wireless, CEO, would you like to give us your top priority for this collaboration down the Omni Highway?
Well, I think collaboration and innovation is a contact sport, and a lot of the time it's about people and about meeting people. And you know, you can have as many big grants and big processes as you like, but actually it's about companies talking to other companies, people talking to other people, and seeing a common vision. And through that, actually, it's networking. And one of the things that Cambridge Wireless has as its sort of real essence is to network, to learn, and to grow as a result. So I think that that's really at the base of it.
And to commercialise?
And to commercialise, of course. grow is the commercialised bit. Yes.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
There's also something about the way that the Birmingham and Cambridgeshire can connect together in a way that makes a lot of sense. And there's a lot of wireless expertise in Cambridge, a lot of artificial intelligence expertise. All of those things are needed to do the autonomous vehicle.
Thank you for that. And Monique, as today's host, and obviously as one of the disruptor sort of start-up, scale-up businesses in this sector. And something you didn't tell our gathered audience here today is that you're 2 years old. In that time, you've actually won 3 bids from Innovate UK worth over £13 million. I mean, I think it's quite an extraordinary achievement. You employ 15 people, so your growth has been meteoric in that period. Now, what is getting in the way of you trebling that growth in the next year or 18 months?
I think actually there's a lot of barriers that are in the way, and most of it is to do with potentially authorities up and down the country, some that are progressive and really want to engage and get that new technology into place. I think all of us in this room today, if you're sitting in this room today, you're already ahead of the curve in so many respects. Whether you're engaged in the CAV industry or looking from the outside in, you're doing the right thing by being here, because there's nothing which is a sure bet. There's absolutely nothing which is a sure bet. But one of the things which you can have a high degree of confidence in is that this technology and the deployment of it and the adoption of it is going to come along. There will be this driverless revolution, and there's no getting away from it. And as an organization, individual or otherwise, you need to position yourselves in the right manner, in the right place, and just position yourselves so that when this technology comes sweeping through, and it will be a sweep through, it will be a change literally over a handful of weeks, your organization, your network is ready and waiting and able to take advantage. But there's so many other aspects in respect of CAV, and especially the influence that it can have on social mobility is such a key, powerful piece on the environment as well, because a lot of CAV technology encompasses emission-free vehicles, and it's such a great legacy potentially that all of us in this room can leave future generations. So if we get it right, we can do it well. And there's enough brains in the UK, and there's plenty of brains in this in this room right now. I can see it. So yeah, this is all coming, and I think as we grow the network, if we grow the network and we get the right partners on board, and we do it together as a cluster, as the cluster we are today, we would have achieved our goals.
Thank you very much for that. I mean, I think the growth prospects are phenomenal. I remember just listening to you, Julian Turner, earlier today. You were saying that in Emirates, where you've signed a MOU for airside capacity for the pods, they're looking for about 15,000 pods. You're able to produce 150. How can we, how can we fund that kind of massive scale of growth? How can we really drive this region as a Silicon, and indeed Cambridgeshire and Peterborough, as a sort of Silicon Valley highway across the country? And I think that is the scale of the challenge that is confronting us in skills, in terms of scale up, and in terms of this network really driving this collaborative framework and network. Now, I'm going to quickly open this up to the room. We've got a few minutes. We've had a long evening. It's been very enjoyable. It's very stimulating. Anybody got some really pressing issues you want to raise? 2 mayors on the platform. John. Coming over to you.
A quick question for me. Question for Andy Street. Andy, we've got the Commonwealth Games coming up in 2020. What we hope to be able to show is not only the West Midlands, led by Birmingham, in the leadership of innovative automotive activity and with JLR and all the other people involved, but if you think about the autonomous vehicles as raindrops, not as a river, then there is a link between the collecting of the passengers by the raindrops and the link into the city. So why can't the West Midlands also become leaders in railway innovation to work with the pods to produce a complete transport system?
Thank you, Andy.
So, as I say, I hope the Commonwealth Games will be an opportunity for us to showcase. By the way, John, it's 2022, not 2020. We can't be ready for 2022, so God help us if you bring it forward 2 more years. But But the critical point is that we are already innovating in public transport forms as well. We've given a commitment that we will, to the Commonwealth Games organisers, that we will have the dedicated route along the Walsall Road, to talk local jargon, ready for then. It's not as ambitious as James's underground, but it will be there. And what I said in my words is we also need to think how we build on that with some local solutions. So it could be around the athletes' accommodation, for example. Definitely, there could also be the whole question of what public service vehicles will be autonomous by then to actually carry out some services on the Commonwealth compound. So my sort of thought is we use this to drive innovation. Spot on.
Thank you very much. Thank you, John, Parry, People Movers. Anybody else got a question for anyone on our panel this evening? No? Well, in which case I'm going to ask one other quick question, and that is, I'd like to particularly address the mayors and Robert, but in terms of diversification of these technologies, which are great integrating technologies, James, where do you see opportunities for growth across out of automotive and transport?
Well, interestingly, having sat next to the Chief Executive, I believe, of Harper Adams, which I didn't expect from my farming background. Clearly, agriculture in my part of the world is a huge part of our economy, and obviously, you rely on us to produce your vegetables that you eat on a daily basis. Now, people may not know, but the farming community named the mobile phone as the greatest agricultural invention of the 20th century. And there's very good reason for that. If you've been stuck with a broken down tractor 5 miles from base, you will know why. What they're doing with autonomous vehicles, what will be happening with autonomous vehicles, and the radical change it will mean for agriculture in this country is quite incredible. So the obvious stuff that we can all see, and I hope I'm not being belittling those who are doing this technology, because it's not obvious to everybody, certainly not to me, how it works, but we can all see how autonomous vehicles can work on the road, and that's exciting, and it will change the way that we move around. But the way that autonomous vehicles can work in agriculture will totally change the way that our food production is carried out, and it will change, certainly in my economy, I believe, it will change us in agriculture from a low-wage economy to a high technological education, the high technological education needed to feed the future economy of agriculture. So it's a very exciting, innovative world, not just on the roads, not just for transport, but in industry as well, and particularly in agriculture.
Thank you. Thank you. And Andy, do you have a thought about that?
I think I always believed in 1 degree of separation rather than 5, because the 1 is likely to happen even though the 5 might be further away and might be more exciting. The 1 I think we have not really thought about yet is how this is going to change the freight industry. That's a part of transport that has been pretty unchanged for a long time, and I suspect there is a revolution coming in that aspect of it as well, which should be a lot cleaner and more responsive.
Thank you, Andy. And Robert?
Underneath all of these technologies, there's something called connectivity, and I think it's really the connectivity revolution that's happening at the moment that is really quite so exciting, and particularly around the area of 5G. And we're very pleased to be leading a consortium that's delivering something called UK 5G, which is connecting up all the projects around the country around 5G. And 5G will affect things like the Commonwealth Games. You know, the people will have an amazing experience, I hope, in the Commonwealth Games Stadium that will be driven by connectivity. It will affect things like agriculture, where, you know, complete transformation in the way that agriculture is delivered, and of course it will affect our cities. And I think that's where a lot of the real change is coming.
Thank you. Well, thank you all. I'm going to bring the panel discussion to a close now, and I'm going to ask Monique if you would please take us to the next stage of the proceedings and indeed to the close. But thank you to all our panel, and a very, very sincere round of applause for the 2 mayors, and especially James Palmer for coming from Cambridgeshire and Peterborough to join us this evening. And Andy, thank you. Thank you all so much. Very grateful. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for being present today. Thank you very much for just being part and being engaged with MCAV. I think you understand what we're trying to do. I think you probably by now get what we're trying to achieve. The next event will have, hopefully just as big an engagement, and we'll be there and talk about all of the issues which are at the forefront of the CAV industry. So I think we'll just crack on and get stuck into dessert. The rest of the evening, please do carry on networking, do a bit of table swapping, a bit of high fives. I'd like to see that. That would be good. So yeah, again, my gratitude to everyone. Thank you.